Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, good morning. I see Honorable Khadebe, Honorable Majola.
Morning, Chairperson, and
Honorable
members on the platform.
Honorable Lehwase.
Good morning.
I'm checking first my constituency, whether we correct. I don't see Honorable Sivisa here on the platform. I don't see Honorable Swart and Brett. Where are they? Or maybe you'll tell us at the right time.
Yes, Chair, we'll do so. Morning, Chair and members.
What is important is to check if we correcting so that I can start with the meeting. Hey, Cape Town is cold. Yo.
Recording in progress. Good morning, honorable members on the platform, our distinguished guests. Welcome to this virtual meeting of the Select Committee on Finance, convened to receive a critical briefing from the Auditor General of South Africa on the performance of the Gauteng Provincial Treasury and its entities. Honorable members, today's discussion is an opportunity to gain insight into the financial management and governance of these entities, ensuring accountability and transparency in the use of public resources. I extend a warm welcome to the Auditor General. I'm reliably informed that in our midst we have Mr. Dakin and Ms. Makaz. So I think, yeah, I see also the other officials from Auditor General in the platform. And I extend a warm welcome to you and the team
and thank them for their diligent work in preparing this briefing. As we proceed, honorable members and guests, let us engage constructively with a focus on identifying challenges, solutions, and opportunities for improvement. I encourage all members to participate actively during the interaction session. Before I start with the program, I'd like to check with Dr. Mangweni in terms of the item 2, that is the apologies. Is there any information that we have? Maybe we'll check how many honorable members that are on the platform, and then the apologies. Dr. Mangweni.
Morning, Chair, once again, and members and colleagues from AGSA. I received an apology from Honorable Swart, Chair. The last time I checked the platform, we had about 6 members. I see there is some more members that are busy joining that I need to admit as well. I'm also told from AGSA that the head of delegation is Kamelo Ramanzi. Yes, Chair.
Ramanzi.
Thanks.
Ramanzi.
Yes, Chairperson, let me see.
No, I was just wanted to check if the surname is correct that I'm pronouncing.
That's correct.
No,
that's correct.
Yes, I'll call you at the right time, Dr. Ramanzi.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, honorable members and colleagues, I declare the meeting officially open and hand over the meeting to the item to the third item on the reporting or the briefing of the AG.
Aye, Chair.
And
I check. There's a hand from Honorable Suisa.
Honorable Suisa.
No, thank you, Chair. Let me greet everyone. Greetings, everyone. Chairperson, colleagues, AG. No, Chair, I just wanted it to be on record because last week I had sent an apology that I won't be, in the coming 2 weeks, I won't be available for meetings. But since this one is hybrid, it's virtual, I just wanted to state that I'm the Chair. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Honorable Suisa. And I was also checking with you if there is any apology because I saw you on the platform. I saw the chair of chairs. Both of them, they are also on the platform because Honorable Ryder was saying, can you let me in? Welcome, Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to the team for letting me in.
Thank you. Can we hand over to Dr. Ramanzi from the Auditor General? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My name is Kamelo Ramanzi. I'm the head of portfolio at the Auditor General's office. I support the Gauteng audit team, the Limpopo audit team, as well as the Bokonebo-Pirima audit team, commonly known as Northwest. Chairperson, can I confirm that I can proceed with the presentation?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Chairperson, we are very delighted to be part of this very important engagement with the committee. We did see on the invite the engagements we intended to be quarterly, and I can assure you that the office will be always available to assist in your work, and we commit to partnering with you quarterly, and it's a sufficiently frequent engagement so that the matters of importance continue to be spotlighted and kept alive. We also saw in the invite that your priority is to enhance oversight over the executive. Chairperson, for us, this is very crucial, and we would like to walk away from this session having appreciated fully what are the specific areas of your oversight interest, so that our engagements with this important committee is more focused and pay specific attention to those matters of the interest, and others should be residual, so that we can make maximum impact. We have we have seen that your stated area of oversight is really around financial sustainability at provincial level. In your language, you use it as financial sustainability. In our language, we call it financial health. That demonstrates that our priorities are complementary, and we will be there to support in every way that our mandate enables us to do. It will also be important that when we fully appreciate your mandate, and to the extent that it complements our culture shift ambitions, then we give credit where it's due to say these engagements with the committee have enabled us to move from point A to point B, and in that way, we acknowledge our joint achievements, and in that way, it keeps us all engaged towards that effort. We also want to make it clear to the committee that we work in close proximity with the provincial oversight structures in the Gauteng province, and that I thought it's important that we highlight that we continue to engage with them on matters that are of a provincial priority. Chairperson, moving on to our mission, I think the controller missed the slide. The mission and vision of the office, the Auditor General of South Africa, has a constitutional mandate, and as the Supreme Audit Institution of South Africa, exists to strengthen our country's democracy by enabling oversight, accountability, and governance in the public sector through auditing, thereby building public confidence. This mission, Chairperson, is supported by our vision, whereby we seek to be recognized by all our stakeholders as a relevant supreme audit institution that enhances public sector accountability. The word relevant is quite profound, in that we see the office as a partner to the administration, as I indicated in the specific case, to empower and enhance oversight. That's how we demonstrate our relevance, and we will continue to partner with you through your oversight initiatives to unlock your work. We are independent, we are unbiased in our approach, and I would like to assure this committee that the Office of the Auditor General is objective in everything that it does in the conduct of its mandate. On the next slide, our Culture Shift 2030 rests on 4 pillars, Chairperson, and the leadership at large. Those 4 pillars are performance, accountability, transparency, and institutional integrity. What do we mean by performance? We are saying everyone in the administration oversight must be seized with their respective mandates. On accountability, we acknowledge that some things can go wrong in the process. What is important for us is there needs to be swift course correction when things go wrong. Lessons need to be learned, and consequences must be taken where there's recurrence of wrongdoing. And whilst we acknowledge that, and I want to emphasize this point, when things go wrong, repair, fix, and then institutionalize the improvements such that the institution doesn't find itself incurring the same deficiencies again. With regards to transparency, Chairperson, we are saying there must be timely provision of relevant and reliable information of the institution's finances, performance, use of resources, and compliance with legislation and applicable prescriptions. At the end of it all, we are saying the systems and ways of work in the institutions must be resilient, in that when people come and go, there are changes in the environment, the controls architecture, the risk management systems, and ethical governance must remain intact as changes occur in the organization. In that way, regressions that we are seeing in the environment will be a thing of the past. Moving on to the next slide. All have a role to play in the entire accountability ecosystem. What do we mean by that? Here, we are depicting a picture that says, Chairperson, everyone has a complementary role to play in the ecosystem. The domino effect of one role player not playing their part, for which they are rewarded. We all know, no one doing the work for nothing. The administration, they earn for the work that they do. If one role player doesn't play its part, it creates a domino effect, and then there's a chain reaction in the entire ecosystem. That strength of the ecosystem is only as strong as its weakest link, given the interdependencies in the environment across various spheres of government, various departments, there's interfaces across the board. On the left side, the top left side, Chairperson, we are saying officials must do their work diligently and be regularly empowered to perform their tasks through refresher training, interventions, clarification of roles and responsibilities, which we see still being a matter that holds us back. Support through standard operating procedures so that there's standardization, predictability in the environment, and the officials are adequately empowered to perform their tasks. On the right side of the officials' role, we are saying the senior management must review the work of the juniors and summarize it in a manner that is understood. The role of the senior management cannot be overstated. In numerous areas where there are deficiencies, in the main, they boil down to senior experienced managers who are not overseeing the work of the junior officials who prepare the work. On the right of the senior management, Chairperson, we are saying accounting officers and accounting authority. And I want to emphasize, with the support of internal assurance, must make well-informed management decisions timeously to steer the institution in the desired direction. The role of assurance should not be underestimated. To empower the leadership, administrative leadership, to work towards the mandate. And by internal assurance, Chairperson, I'm referring to internal audit, risk management structures, and compliance support within the institution's leadership. To the right of the accounting officer and authority, the executive authority must provide overall stewardship to management to enable to continue to fulfill its mandate in a prudent and sustainable manner. I'm now crossing over to the blue side of this picture. We are calling on oversight to provide requisite support to executive and political leadership as well as administrative leadership in the environment. And lack of performance must result in oversight, enforcing accountability and consequence management. We see this committee, the committee maybe to place it in the way in this picture, in the middle, the green crosses to blue, those three emojis there where it says Parliament, provincial legislatures and oversight. Our understanding is that the select committee is located under the Parliament part of this accountability ecosystem. Very, very strategic and influential role player. That's how we see the role of the select committee in this engagement. On to the next slide, Controller. Here we share with the committee the overall continuous improvement trend that we see in the provincial audit outcomes. I'm going to start from the left in the column that we call unqualified with no audit findings. We normally refer to that as clean audits. From 2019, we're sharing with you the picture from 2018-19 to 23-24. There has been a demonstrable improvement trend from 14 clean audits in 2019 to 22 clean audits that you see in the green column. There was a small setback in that the Gauteng Partnership Fund regressed from this clean category to the unqualified findings during the period and still could not come back to date. But that situation, we hope that it will turn the corner to bring Gauteng Partnership Fund to where it belonged over the years. I want to stress, other than Gauteng Partnership Fund, there hasn't been any other regressions from the clean cluster, and that is commendable, Chairperson. We have 13, the 13 in the green box there, 13 departments that have sustained in the clean audit cluster all the way from 2018-19 to date, and we wish to commend that performance. It can be done. It's clearly indicated that if you assist with the right priorities, it can be done and sustained. Moving on to let me first complete my picture on the green column to say, I'm glad to highlight that the G-Fleet, the Community Safety Department, Gambling Board of Gauteng, Gauteng Tourism Authority joined the clean audit in the 23-24 financial year to increase the number from 18 to 22. It is a great and welcome outcome. Moving on to the yellow column, you will notice a reduction in the yellow column, which is commendable. Why I'm saying it's commendable is because the reduction in the yellow did not lead to increase in the purple and the red. The reduction in the yellow went to the direction that we desire towards the clean. This is a great achievement. What I'd like to bring to your attention, which is not obvious in the slide, is that 8 below the 32% indicates those auditees that remained in the unqualified with findings since 2018-19. And those are the big departments in there making up the 8, sustaining the unqualified over there is health, road and transport, agriculture and rural development, infrastructure is there, enterprise propeller is in the 8, sports, arts and culture is in the 8, medical supplies depot is in the 8, as well as social development. I will elaborate on those shortly. Chairperson, the Gauteng province should proud itself that it does not report disclaimer audits at the provincial level. However, I would also like to add to say Gauteng Housing Fund improved from disclaimer to adverse. Yes, it's an improvement which needs to be acknowledged. However, we are also in the same breath saying an adverse opinion should not be celebrated, and we call upon your support as a committee to do whatever you can within your powers to support Gauteng Housing Fund to move as rapidly as possible towards the far left of this picture that we're sharing with you. It is with pleasure to say 74% of the auditees in the period of 23-24 had no material adjustments in their financial statements when they were submitted to us. I'm slightly sad to say that last year, in 22-23, it was 83% who achieved that, and there's been a regression to 74. We hope that this will turn the corner very quickly to prevent this regression. I'd like to add to say 78% of the auditees, similar to last year, also 78%, submitted the performance reports that had no material findings. Commendable, great achievement. Would like to see if the province can push further to increase that 78% towards 100% error-free annual performance reports, as well as financials that are submitted to the audit office. With regards to compliance, 52% the auditees had no material compliance findings. This is an improvement from the prior year, which was 48%. We would like to see this achievement being sustained because, Chairperson, the matter of compliance, not only in provincial, but in local government, is an area for significant concern for the audit office. I want to quickly commend the province on the far right of this picture that says Gauteng Province and non-submission of financial statements don't coexist. Gauteng Province, provincially speaking, late submissions and the Gauteng Province of financial statements don't coexist. There are no audit delays that we are seeing in the environment. That deserves a big round of applause for the Gauteng. It can be done and it can be sustained.
And the other Ramans, it's like the slide that we're talking about. I'm not sure if it's myself. It does not talk to your presentation. Just that I got the presentation with me.
The slide that I'm talking to is the heading is overall continuous improvement trend in audit outcomes, Chairperson. Is that
okay? No, it's okay.
Are you able to see it now?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Should I go back?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
You can continue.
Okay, thanks very much, Chairperson. The drivers to this performance, this achievement to date, is leadership, proximity, and prioritization of pre-agreed audit improvement plans. The improvement of Gauteng Housing Fund was propelled by better records management in the environment. The timely one-time adjustments of annual financial statements contributed to this picture. Otherwise, we'll be having a lot of qualified audit opinions. And I want to also commend the audit team for their efforts in collaborating with the leadership to present this what looks as a fairly good picture provincially. Chairperson, I want to appreciate the support that Provincial Treasury, as well as the Office of the Premier, in enabling the sustained no late submissions of annual financial statements, prevention of non-submissions, and enabling timely audit completions. I want to also commend the Office of the Premier as well as the Provincial Treasury in enabling timely submissions of the annual performance reports. The controller please move to the next slide. Now, this picture, I would like all of us to be seized with. It presents a picture that says the majority of the audit outcomes in the province are in the clean environment. Those that have sustained the clean have been joined by, as indicated on the top left, G-Fleet Community and Gambling Board and Tourism Authority. They've joined the unqualified with no findings. We have a big block that are still in the unqualified, and I would like us to reflect on the ones that remained in the yellow zone for a sustained period. To say, what will it take, Chairperson and the committee, what will it take for us to enable and unlock this cohort into the clean environment? And we are saying, when we do recommendations, when we share recommendations, we jointly identify root causes, we co-develop the recommendations, we agree on recommendations that are practical, implementable, and that meet the SMART criteria. After we have co-created, co-agreed, it would look like this momentum that's required to implement the recommendations so that change can be effected. This is an area where your support, to the extent that it's part of a mandate, will be greatly, greatly appreciated. The role of internal audit cannot be underestimated regard to this block of unqualified category. Elevation and continued reminders of the importance of compliance to laws, regulations, and prescriptions, and Chairperson, probity audits is a key cog in unlocking matters of non-compliance. I would like to plead with the committee to see if there's anything that you can support with regards to matter of probity, because why? Probity prevents rather than react to things falling between the cracks. Lastly, the ones that have, let's take those 4 that have improved. What is it that they've done right to get to clean? Why can't we all agree to say, we are now going to set up lessons learned platforms, deliberate platforms where those that have achieved come and share with those that are still grappling with improvements in the environment. Those lessons, sharing of lessons summits, or you can name the whole classes, deliberately planned, deliberately crafted. I do believe that they can also contribute towards the improvements of the unqualified into clean. Lastly, the Gauteng housing fund at the bottom there on the left, it's still grappling with the challenges in the reporting of property, plant and equipment in payables, accruals, borrowings, expenditure management, challenges in the accounting policy management, changes in estimates, and other similar related errors. The work continues to support Gauteng housing fund out of that zone. Controller, we move to the next slide, please. We're coming to the different categories that make up our audit focus areas. Firstly, reflections on the quality of the financial statements. It is, you can clearly see, so the graph on top with the red and green refers to the number of the poor quality financial statements that are shared with the audit office. The bar charts on the middle talk to the high quality number of audits, so they're inverse of each other. In the top part, you can clearly see there, in 2018, we received 20 sets of financial statements with material findings. That has almost halved. That's an achievement. Have we arrived there? Not yet. But by almost halving that 20, it says something very good about what's happening in the environment. Coming to the table below, the high quality financial statement that we received in the prior was 28. That is in the dark blue column. Unfortunately, that 28 in the 23-24 has regressed to 27. So one audit dropped, and that slight regression, we would like to see it quickly reversed to be in the right direction. However, I want to quickly also add to say the published financials at the end of the day are of good quality, as indicated there with the 33, which has been sustained from the prior year as well. What we are seeing as the root causes on the right in the middle, a lack of consistency in management implementing recommendations from prior year in improving financial reporting controls. And secondly, noting the slight regression in the quality of the apps before audit, it's signaling a lack of implementing review and monitoring controls. And here, there's an opportunity for assurance to tighten the involvement, because they've got every opportunity to review the financials, take them back to management, implement recommendations, and then financials can be provided to external audit. There's a role for internal audit to play in the review over and above the reviews by senior management in the financial units. Moving to the next slide, controller. I want to maybe before I move quickly, the departments that mainly rely on the audit process in the previous slide, the departments that mainly rely on the audit process to enhance the quality of the financials prior to publishing: health, human settlements, road and transport, sports, Gauteng Partnership Fund, as well as Gauteng Transport Authority, which we call TAG, Transport Authority of Gauteng. Thank you very much. Moving on to the performance planning, chairperson and the leadership. We are tracking on the performance planning and reporting. We're reflecting on the quality of the published annual performance reports. And we are saying largely remain stable. Our reflection says that we track 4 categories of deficiencies, buckets, categories or buckets or groups or clusters that we track. The first bucket or cluster that we track is to review whether the reported performance information is credible and can be relied upon. So that's on the far left in the blue, where we send reporting on delivery not credible. What we have seen in the credibility of the information, of performance information, health, sports and recreation, medical supply, depot, have sustained challenges in this category, and number over in more than one financial year. They have recently now been joined by human settlements and agriculture and rural development, whose annual performance reports are not credible. What that means is that supporting information provided to us as evidence of performance does not support what is reported as achieved. We continue to collaborate with the leadership in these institutions to address this issue of information not being credible. The second cluster or bucket or category is the top in the middle, where we track whether key performance indicators enable the department's mandate. And we have noticed that in the case of medical supply depot, whose mandate is to safely and efficiently distribute medical supplies to various health facilities, did not include this critical priority in their APPs. Elevated that to management, this matter is being looked into. The third cluster relates to the key performance indicators not always being useful, not always being relevant, not always being measurable. needless to say, it's marked in green, Chairperson. We did not identify gaps in the usefulness of the key performance indicators and targets across the province. We acknowledge that achievement. Lastly, we track the bucket that talks to the quality of performance indicators and targets. That's what we call it. In the main, the observation here that we continue to engage the provincial leadership on is we see a trend where the targets are formulated to say number of reports generated, where department will say, I've generated 5 reports in this specific area, therefore, and my target was 5 reports, my performance is 5 reports, therefore I've achieved. We've been engaging the administration over a number of years to say, let's graduate, nudging the leadership to say, let's graduate from tracking the number of reports and start putting emphasis on the content of the reports. The message we are saying here, the emphasis that you're seeing is still being placed on tracking number of reports prepared rather than the impact of what is contained in the reports. I want to quickly hasten to add, the Office of the Premier has demonstrated commitments in that direction, in that they have reviewed their key performance indicators and targets to talk to exactly the point that we've been trying to encourage the province to move towards. That is leadership from the front, in our view. There are instances that are still trailing behind on the reports, but it's a matter that we continue to influence the administration in that direction. I also want to add, Chairperson, on the top left of the slide, you can clearly see that the majority of the institutions don't have material findings, and that we commend that, and there's room for improvement with those residual audits. The Office of the Auditor General collaborates very well with the planning and monitoring unit within the Office of the Premier to review the draft of the annual performance plans of the departments. That intervention is absolutely critical for us to continue maintaining and avoiding any possibility of a regression in this important area of performance planning. I think we can move to the next slide, Controller. I've covered it. To the next slide. In my opening remarks, Chairperson, I did indicate the matter of priority towards fiscal sustainability. It's going to start to getting prominence from now on as we proceed with the slides now. We are sharing with the committee the status of the unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure in the province. On the top left, you will note that irregular expenditure from 2019-20 to 2023-24, when you average those annual irregular expenditure amounts, they average about 7.5 billion each year. What that says is that on average, the province incurs 7.5 billion of irregular expenditure. The latest year being 7.9 billion across 23 audits. The block below is the 5-year overview of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure across all 23 audits. The average is about 300 million rand of fruitless and wasteful expenditure each year. The last being more than 500 million for 23-24. When one analyzes this picture, it says human settlements incurred half of the irregular expenditure in the 23-24 financial year. Human settlements incurred 90% of fruitless and wasteful expenditure in the 22-23 financial year. That's human settlements. Health incurred 34% of irregular expenditure in the 23-24 financial years, and a small amount, 3% of fruitless and wasteful expenditure in 22-23. Roads and transport incurred 11.6% of the irregular expenditure in 23-24 and nothing in the prior year. What this picture tells us is that human settlement, health and roads and transport incurred more than 95% of irregular expenditure in the province for the 23-24 financial year. And similarly, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, obviously the human settlements take the lion's share of that expenditure. What is interesting to see in this picture here is that the province is able to avoid completely, on a sustained basis, unauthorized expenditure. And we are calling upon the province to say, if the minds are focused to say, we don't tolerate unauthorized expenditure, and the same tone is directed towards irregular and wasteful expenditure, it can be done. We are not talking about an environment of the entirety of unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless. Unauthorized is fully and well contained. And the same practices, methods, and ways of work can benefit the province towards the other two categories. What are the root causes that we are seeing in environment? On the right side, weaknesses in the compliance monitoring controls for both categories of fruitless as well as irregular expenditure. But that also means assurance has a role to play to prevent these amounts recurring each year. Legacy contracts in case of irregular expenditure that we are seeing being incurred from month on month, specifically the health and infrastructure, as indicated there. For social development, incurring agent transactions without following the procurement prescripts, because the guidance is there. Procurement without competitive bidding by roads and transport. The rules are clear, and it all takes focused mind, effort, and will to eradicate these practices. I want to talk about fruitless. Chairperson is self-explanatory as well. And the real message here is it can be done, because there's an example in a form of unauthorized expenditure. The impact of these expenditures, we say on the bottom right, negative impacts on government socio-economic objectives of empowering previously disadvantaged individuals and small businesses. On the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, the impact there is on government's already stretched fiscus that we see each year, the budget speeches and so on. Stretching of the fiscus, there is no room to be incurring fruitless and wasteful expenditure that provides no value for money for the departments. Moving on to the next slide. Controller. This is a picture similar to the previous slide. However, here we are introducing how is that expenditure dealt with? What is the executive's response in dealing with those expenditures? And the picture tells us in the middle that for irregular expenditure, the closing balance of which is 42 billion rands in the 23-24 financial year, 95% of irregular expenditure is not dealt with. Okay. The reason why in our assessment and engagements is that the investigations are lengthy, they take long, in some instances they require external service providers, and it's a long process. And what we are also seeing contributing to the overwhelming majority of not dealt with irregular expenditure is the condonement process that is not properly and adequately followed by the departments, meaning Treasury is unable to approve condonements because proper condonement processes have not been followed. On the far right, it's an analysis of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. There we are saying investigations still need to be done. However, the picture is slightly better because fruitless is very easy to identify it. It's very easy for the various committees to say, no, here we've paid, there's no goods and services, the organization didn't receive value for money, and hence we can see the write-off is on the 78% compared to a significantly reduced, not dealt with fruitless and wasteful expenditure. This picture begins to talk to the fiscal sustainability that the Select Committee is seized with and the Auditor General's Office is concerned about. That kicks off the conversations around fiscal sustainability. The next slide, controller. Now, moving deeper into the financial health conversations, what we see as risks and concerns. You'll see the chairperson, Education, Department of COPTA, Office of the Premier, Infrastructure Development, and eGov make up the 2.48 billion deficits on an accrual adjusted basis in the province. The deficits, needless to say, our assessment is that is an area for concern for the Select Committee that will require collaboration, conversations, sharing ideas on how we can turn the corner as swiftly as possible from reporting deficits. There's a part that talks to medical legal claims. It's a part that talks to the e-toll debt and the undesirable, irregular and fruitless expenditure also contributes to this picture. On the top right of the slide, we share the picture on the unpaid claim, chiefly on the role of health. We say the province's financial health remains at significant risk as legal claims continue to pose a financial sustainability threat. 19 billion is the outstanding amount for the claims in 23-24, total unpaid claims, and that has increased to 23.1 billion. No, sorry, the other way around. My apologies. It's 23 billion in 22-23 and then that for 23-24 is 19 billion. Those are quite substantial claims, posing a risk, a contingent risk to the province. Can we move on to the next slide, Controller? Here we share with the committee the material irregularities in the province. Since the Auditor General's office has been given the powers in 2019 for the material irregularities, we have issued 34 material irregularities cumulatively, analyzed as follows. Before I talk to the slide itself, I'm just going to share with you a different picture, and then I'll come to the slide itself. We have focused on health, human settlements, infrastructure development, education, and roads and transport, being what we call in the office the big five departments that control substantial budgets in their mandate. We have developed themes. We've developed themes on how we want to share with you these material irregularities. Where infrastructure is not completed, where infrastructure is not constructed at all, where infrastructure is constructed but is not utilized. Then the fourth bucket is where procurement was done but is outside the mandate of the department. That led us to issue material irregularities. Then there's a bucket that talks to procurement without competitive bids. The continuation thereof forced us to issue material irregularities to curb the practice. The next bucket is, which we see in too many instances, procurement at excessive prices relative to the market prices of those goods and services. The next bucket is incurral of interest on court orders that should have been paid on time, but they are not paid on time, and then they result in interest which should have been avoided. Then we saw an isolated instance of the material irregularity that's been issued, whereby a department paid amounts to an incorrect beneficiary. The next category is where the department continue not to achieve the targets. Late appointment of contractors that results in waste. Poor handling of food and storage facilities that compromise the hygiene of the school-going children. Those are the buckets that we have identified. Health is in quite a number of them. It's got MIs in the infrastructure not completed, construction not being done, non-utilization of resources. On the non-utilization of infrastructure, I want to commend health to say the material irregularity that resulted in non-utilization of infrastructure with regards to George Mukari Hospital beds, we can say now they are being used, and we are very delighted to see that. And we would like to see the effort that went into the utilization of the beds permeated across the province and not only be limited to George Mukari. So our MI trajectory is for the institutions not just to respond to that specific MI, but build resilience across the department and preferably across the province to prevent the recurrence of that MI. The material irregularity process, what we are saying, Chairperson, is we should not be here if we do the right things the first time. George Mukari is an example of what a material irregularity process can achieve. Health also, as an MI in the procurement of non-mandate related goods, they also procured with competitive bids, they paid excessive prices, and they also incurred interest relating to these court orders. That's health. Therefore, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they contribute to those 7 buckets. Human settlements, to a lesser extent, they also paid excessive prices, and that triggered an material irregularity. They also incurred interest related to court orders. They are the only ones who paid an incorrect beneficiary. And then lastly, in health, there was a sustained missing of targets. I also want to commend human settlements to say, when we issued an MI, the target achievement was around 15%. That has been shot up to 68%. That must be commended. And our overall target as the AG's office, anything 80% and above, is really what we should be looking towards across the board. We understand 100%, maybe it's too ambitious, but at least 80%. I want to stress how delighted we are for health to have responded to this MI, and we will be there to support them to prevent any possibility of regression in this regard. Infrastructure contributed to the infrastructure not completed. I want to quickly also add to say Maibuye School in Tembisa, for which infrastructure was responsible, it was not completed through the MI process. The children are now enjoying the benefits of that school. The school is fully operational, and we want to celebrate that achievement together with infrastructure and say, please, let's not find ourselves in this environment across the board. Build resilient systems to prevent having to be facing a material irregularity. Infrastructure contributed to non-utilization of infrastructure. Infrastructure also paid excessive prices for there was a refurbishment of a private hospital that was done by infrastructure, and there was no compensation for improving the privately owned hospital by the government. And then we said, no, government must be refunded for those refurbishments, and that necessitated an MI. I am glad to say this matter is being pursued through the special tribunal matters and is getting attention. It has not been neglected and locking in the losses. I want to commend infrastructure for making those efforts. Education paid excessive prices as well. I'm also quickly going to say this is a matter that is being attended to through the SIU, who got a court order to recover the funds. However, one of the suppliers is appealing the matter, and then it's really under the auspices of the court. We're just happy that it's not a matter that's been neglected to sit with the losses that are not being recovered. Education faced an MI regarding the inadequate handling of food and storage. I am pleased to say.
Dr. Ramanzi, we need a break.
No, let's continue, Chairperson. I'll shout if.
Because I can hear you are not well.
No. I'll shout, Chairperson. I'm happy to
Maybe you
proceed.
you must get water next to you.
Yes, I've got water with me. Thanks very much,
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, I am very, very delighted to say that the Department of Education has revised the school nutrition program policy to see the back of this MI and to institutionalize systems, never ever to find itself again in this situation. Coming to the slide in front of you, we share with you what an MI process can achieve. In the middle, the impact made across government. In the PFMS environment, it might look small, but 2 million financial loss recovered. It sends a message. 207 million financial loss prevented. R500 million financial loss in the process of being recovered. When you read further, the 1.9 is the payment to an incorrect beneficiary and human settlements that I spoke about. That has been recovered. And those that are prevented talk mainly to infrastructure development, health, and again, infrastructure development. And that last one of the COVID-19 procurement in the Department of Education, where invoices that were not paid in relation to COVID-19 for decontamination, fogging, and deep cleaning. There's prevention of that loss. And lastly, those that are in the process of being recovered, I mentioned for education as well as infrastructure development. Chairperson, I have spent time on this slide for the committee to appreciate what this material irregularity can do and can it achieve. But the message that I want to leave you with here is that of prevention, and we should not be celebrating resolution of MIs. We should not be here in the first place. I want to emphasize that point, Chairperson. We can move to the next slide, please, Controller. Coming to the matters of infrastructure, also closely linked to financial sustainability, and this one also talks to service delivery now. Because if there's waste in infrastructure where monies are being paid, for which infrastructure is not being enjoyed by the citizens, we are saying that puts pressure on the fiscus, and that continues to negatively affect the quality of lives of the citizens of Gauteng. We start first with the positive picture. You can see in these blocks there to say that it's not all doom and gloom. There are areas where we're seeing positive offshoots, where the Department of Education on the top left implemented various initiatives to assist schools such as self-built classrooms. Big ticket of support from us. It's a positive. It's a positive step in the right direction. Health. Media reports indicated that the Mandisa, Shitreka, and Bikutzon clinics had been completed but were not yet open. When we visited the clinic in the current year, the clinics were functioning and treating the patients. Big achievement. Chairperson, I would like to maybe leave it there to say it's not all doom and gloom. We are also seeing that there are areas of excellence. Our call to action through your support, if this permits your mandate, is we want to see the majority, the infrastructure that are not functioning should not be a norm, should be isolated incidents. However, we are concerned that it's not yet isolated incidents. It's just far too many that have got breakdowns. Okay, I'll leave the committee to read the rest of the good news and then move to the next slide, which talk to the insights regarding the conditional assessment of infrastructure. Here, the focus, committee members, is you talk about maintenance, not the actual construction of the infrastructure, but the maintenance or lack thereof on the already built infrastructure. Already you can see for yourself the pictures, how they look like on the right, just by hovering around them, that the picture is not what you will be proud as the province to be associated with. On the left top, what we found in auditing the 2 hospitals, 11 schools, 1 building, we found that list of the areas of concern. Lights broken, tripping hazards, electrical compliance certificates not in place, blockages of the sewer system, etc. Water damages due to leaf leaks, an undesirable picture to see. What we have identified as root causes similar to irregular and fruitless expenditure, lack of monitoring of compliance with required standards and prescriptions. Chairperson, this is a trend that we are seeing across now. Lack of monitoring is coming through again. In some instances, insufficient budget allocation for maintenance, activities, assessments, inspections, and repairs by management. I need us to reflect on the insufficient budget for maintenance, because if infrastructure is built and not budgeted for maintenance, inevitably it results in waste. The impact that we are seeing because of lack of maintenance, if you don't maintain now, we plan to significantly increase maintenance in the short future. The impact of not maintaining now is increased maintenance due to reactive repairs. We don't want to see the Gauteng province reacting to matters across the board. An approach that reacts is a bidding ground for material irregularities. If, in collaboration with everyone involved, we can build resilience around proactive, preventative ways of work, practices, systems, we should not be finding ourselves where we are across the board. The second impact, the building maintenance issues which are not timely addressed can create problems affecting the functionality, safety, and longevity of the buildings. I am very much sure we are all very familiar with this statement here. Quality of healthcare provided to patients may suffer where repairs and maintenance issues are not attended to timelessly. I am very much sure that we are all very much aware of what we are referring to with regards to the issues in hospitals, in our clinics, in the province. Moving on to the next slide, Chairperson, I'm done now with maintenance. I'm talking about the infrastructure built. This is what this slide is seized with. We share with you the key projects that were selected for the following frontline departments, called Big 5, frontline, big budgets, high impact departments, where we share with you on the left health instances where contractors did not receive payment, and we know what that will result to. Education, economic development, instances where projects were not effectively managed, resulting in delays, including timely completion not being met, and the consequent waste that's going to follow. infrastructure development did not implement proper planning processes. By not properly planning, it's obviously planning to fail. And we want to call upon that this practice needs to be kept of inadequate planning. We also saw there's another trend in the comment I made earlier to say fruitless and wasteful expenditure. If there's no proper planning and there's urgent procurement, it significantly enhances the likelihood of incurring fruitless and wasteful expenditure, even irregular expenditure. So this planning matter, timely planning, timely monitoring, the execution and timely monitoring should not be underestimated. On roads and transport, we are saying although the contractor entered into voluntary business rescue, the contractor was retained on the project despite the financial risks. That's quite substantial. That's quite significant. And the impacts, negative impacts, will flow from everything that I said on this slide. Let's move on to the next slide. Controller. Leadership. We share with you the status of the commitments that we left the executive with for the 23-24 financial year on the big five only, across the board. But I think maybe the key service delivery departments are the ones that really are left front and center. Department of Health committed to prioritize the audit action plans. We are grateful for that. Similarly, roads and transport committed to prioritize audit action plans. We are very much happy to see that development. It's still in progress, however, in the right direction. Department of Health have committed to pay close attention to matters of infrastructure maintenance. Similarly, infrastructure, education, and roads and transport have committed to not only us, they've committed to themselves as well that they're going to prioritize matters of maintenance. Because the commitment is not for auditors. Human settlements and education have committed to monitoring compliance, monitoring checklists, and see to its effective implementation. We are very delighted with that commitment. Health, human settlements, infrastructure, education have committed themselves to implementing systems and processes for monitoring of the planning, budgeting, and execution of projects. Infrastructure and roads and transport have signed a commitment that says they are now going to hold non-performing contractors accountable. We have seen too many instances where contractors move around, don't complete projects, they get appointed elsewhere, and then what wrongdoing that they did in the past is left behind, doesn't follow them, and they get away with causing a lot of waste in the government. Human settlements have committed to themselves that they are going to capacitate internally their investigating units to ensure that investigations of irregular and fruitless wasteful transgressions are completed timeously. We will continue to support the department, the departments in their journey of swiftly, timeously resolving and fulfilling these commitments. You can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 have been implemented, and we welcome that achievement, and then we continue to track those that are in progress. Our priority as the audit office is any recommendation, any commitment that is being implemented, it should be sufficiently robust not to enable any possibility of regress as people and systems change, as I indicated earlier. That is the picture of the commitments. The majority obviously is in progress. However, they're in the step in the right direction. We can go to the next slide, controller. Overall call to action, Chairperson. The overall message from the audit office is that there's continuing overall improvement in the audit outcomes and an increase in the clean audits. And this is demonstrated. There's no ambiguity in that. There's no judgment on that. It is factually illustrated that the unqualified audits are reducing over the administration, and then the clean audits are improving. There's a big round of applause. The overall message, the accounting officer's responsiveness in the provincial environment is evident. We see that through the engagements that we have with the leadership. We see that with the actions. We see that with the outcomes. There's pockets of regressions here and there, but in the main, we want to leave you with the message that says the responsiveness of the accounting officers, as well as the leadership, has really demonstrated a desire to doing good and being responsive. We would like to leave you with a message that says internal combined assurance can do more. Yes, it's a great start that there's internal assurance. It's a great start that they play a role. What we should all be seized with: audit office, internal assurance, select committee to extend that it extends to your mandate. The matter of compliance keeps us awake at night. I commended the Office of the Premier regarding the drafting of the indicators to include output and impact. Big round of applause. What I haven't spoken about so far is the role of the Department of Cooperative Governance with regarding local government. And Chairperson, we collaborate with the MEC COGTA. Yes, the conversation here is provincially. However, for us, we can't miss an opportunity to also live as you rise, to say the good practices that you are seeing in the provincial government need to cascade through the MEC COGTA. And we work closely with the MEC COGTA collaboratively to support him as well in his endeavors to uplift local government. We can't lose sight of that. The provincial treasury continued support of local government has been demonstrated. We can attest to that. There are no disclaimers in Gauteng province. I'm talking local government. There are no disclaimers. There are no adverse opinions in Gauteng. And provincial treasury, we will work very closely with them to prevent any possibility of regression in that space. The overall message, Chairperson, poverty cannot be underestimated. I'm saying this for the fourth time. It can't be underestimated in the compliance, and also if any role it can play in the performance space, it will be appreciated. The reliance, I'm talking about the financial statements, the continued reliance on the audit process for material annual financial statement adjustment by 26% of the auditees is not sustainable. And we all need to put hands on deck to eradicate reliance on the audit process. Key service delivery departments, the big five, have got huge budgets to enable sustainable resolution of this practice. Health, I'm now moving into the performance environment. Health and human settlements are key service delivery departments who should not be getting qualified opinions and adverse opinions in the area of performance information. When we analyzed the province, we said, as a matter of urgency, health and human settlement needs all the support to quickly get out of this adverse and qualified opinions in this performance. On compliance, our analysis tells us there's attention that needs to be paid in the expenditure management, payment of suppliers as per the prescripts. The matter of consequence management is of grave concern to us. That 95% of unresolved irregular expenditure and that 22% of fruitless expenditure, talk to this consequence management, is a cause for concern for the office. Procurement and contract management practices, we continue to see breakdowns, and in our view, can be arrested. Lastly, on compliance, the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatements, that talks to what I've mentioned earlier regarding the 26% of the auditees that give us financials with material errors for audit. As I close, the overall message, members, material irregularities. A province with abundant financial resources should not be attracting material irregularities. There should be adequate checks and balances. In other words, preventative controls, resilient management information systems to insulate the Gauteng province from being exposed to new material irregularities. What has happened has happened. We will address those that are still in the environment, but our plea to the committee, let's pull all stops to stop the Gauteng province from incurring new material irregularities. Chairperson, that's our message. Thanks very much for the opportunity. We are now happy to engage with the committee on matters of your priority. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dr. Ramanzi. You know, I was listening to you, it's like you were enjoying doing this presentation of Gauteng. It's like you were so impressed about the improvement on the audit outcome of the province. And I also wanted, before I give to honorable members, I thought you'll just do a mini comparison on the Limpopo and Northwest, as you indicated earlier, that you are auditing the three provinces, that is the Limpopo, Gauteng, and Northwest. I understand now we are focusing on Gauteng, but I thought as role in auditing 3 provinces. You will be able to indicate to this committee, as will be meeting with the Gauteng at the later stage, on what have you seen in terms of the audit outcome of the provinces. Is there any improvement compared to the 2 other provinces? Before I go to my honorable members, can we just touch on that first? If you still remember that.
Yes, Chairperson, thanks very much. I still remember that. Yes, Chairperson,
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can I make a plea,
Yes.
please? Now that these engagements are going to be quarterly, can we make this an action item for the next engagement? I would like to engage the business unit leaders for those 2 provinces before I can share with this committee. With due respect, the next session I will address this matter, if please, with your permission, Chairperson.
No, it's fine. It's okay. I understand that. Can we allow honorable members? On my list, I have Honorable Siwiso. Can you start with the question while I'm noting other honorable members?
No, thank you, Chair. I hope that my network is not going to throw me away. The weather is a bit bad where I am, Chair. The electricity only came back, I think, about 10 minutes ago. Chairperson, let me also welcome the presentation for the provincial government of Gauteng. The report looks good, Chair. That one I can't dispute, but I have one issue, Chair, and I'm also going to focus on one particular municipality in Gauteng province. The report says there is no unauthorized expenditure. They managed to contain that, they managed to follow the processes, they managed to do everything according to the regulations and the legislations, according to the PFMA and the FMFA. My problem is irregular expenditure, number 1. Number 2, incomplete projects. Number 3, excessive pricing. Processes were followed. There is no unauthorized, which means that we've got a province that follows procedures, but also do not look at the pricing, the overpricing that happens in some of these projects, which is a great concern, Chair, because if we say we are following all processes, there is no unauthorized, everything goes well. We also need to look into the bracket in which the money needs to be spent, especially the pricing. Now we are sitting with problems whereby we are waiting for people to refund the provincial government due to excessive pricing. I want to know the 2 cases that were stated. When did this happen? And when and how far is the process? Yes, I heard that we are in the process of getting the money back. One of the contractors is actually challenging the government of Gauteng to say that we are going to challenge, which means that they are saying that we are within the brackets that were stated, which is a great concern. So we can't say there is no unauthorized, and yet we find ourselves with overpricing, which means that somebody needs to be held accountable when it comes to that. Human settlement at 90% of irregular expenditure. And I'm going to make an example with Merafong. Right now, Merafong is experiencing sinkholes, dismally so. And those people need to be moved in Merafong to a new settlement. And already human settlement has got irregular expenditures that are happening. How can the provincial treasury assist human settlement to move from the 90% of irregular, especially taking into consideration that we need to have huge projects that are going to happen in Merafong. I also want to check, Chair, that the Gauteng South Clinic was never completed. Is it completed now? Because it was an abandoned project which was circulating. There were interviews, I think 23, 24, there was that issue of the Gauteng South Clinic. And now there's one clinic that has been closed in Merafong, and the communication that came out is that people in that clinic, I think I need to check the name of the clinic. I'll get the name of the clinic that was closed in Merafong. But one of the clinics that people were advised to go and consult for primary health care is the same Gauteng South Clinic that has been abandoned. It's an abandoned project, and the building was dilapidated, and there was just a mess about the clinic. And then the issue of, there's a project that was also abandoned, the K54 Provincial Road that was supposed to link to the Zamaya Road that goes to N4. The project was never completed. The project started in 2018 to date. The project has never been completed. The Mamelodi, the Greenview station in Ward 40 in Mamelodi station, which has already spent 105 million, but the station is not operative. So the report looks good, but we've got all of these other little issues. They are not even little, they are big, because it means that we are disadvantaging the communities in those places for them to receive a service delivery chain. And when you go to the NDP that was released for Merafong 2023-24, for Merafong local municipality, summary of that was that has been published is this: the summary of community needs that fall under the government departments. They say that the Department of Health in Merafong, they need to come up with a 24-hour clinics. They need social development, needs to establish disability centers and socially integrated facilities. Department of Education needs to build schools in new development areas. And the Department of Public Safety and Security needs to have access to police stations, access to satellite police stations and police visibility. Department of Home Affairs, access to Home Affairs services. This is only Merafong. Merafong is experiencing sinkholes, Chair. I want to find out how, with all of this, to say that human settlement has got 90% of irregularity, health has got 34% of irregularity. How are we going to deal? How is the provincial treasury going to ensure that the department, that the government of Gauteng is going to ensure that all the developments that are supposed to happen in Merafong, without finding themselves being overpriced, still fighting for the other overpricing that has happened, that they find themselves, they do not have irregular expenditures. They don't find themselves with contractors that are going to overprice because they are going to see an opportunity for them to make money without thinking that these people need the services. Avoid abandoned projects that are going to happen, because Merafong needs to be developed. Those people are literally sitting on sinking holes. Schools are being closed down. Parts of other schools are being closed down, so the children must not go there. It's just a mess in Merafong. So how are we going to, how is the provincial and the national treasury going to ensure that everything goes accordingly, not only checking unauthorized, but making sure that projects happen, projects are completed on time, there is no overpricing that's going to happen when we speak about Merafong specifically. I'm going to stop there for now, Chair. Thank you very much.
Honorable Hosek.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to all the colleagues on the platform, honorable members and the support staff. Let me also join my colleague in appreciating the presentation, Chairperson, that has been put before us. And the Chair, I must indicate that most of the questions I have, I think they are more relevant to the provincial government of Gauteng itself. But to the Auditor General, I have a few of direct questions that one might have an interest in them being responded to. My first question is, or the questions of interest might be that I want to know how the Auditor General measure the impact of its audit findings and recommendations on improving the financial management and service delivery in the Gauteng province. We are one committee that is always preaching, Chairperson, of seeing the value for money. I want, in fact, to know whether they are satisfied with all the improvements they've spoken of. Are they satisfied with the delivery of services to the communities? And also, I want them to elaborate on their collaboration with the oversight bodies such as the Public Protector and the Hawks for addressing the financial misconduct and corruptions in the public sector, Chair. I also want to know how do they assess the effectiveness of the audit committees and other government structures in audited entities, and what guidance is provided to enhance their oversight role as the Auditor General. And my last question, Chair, I want to check from the previous audit outcomes. Can they provide an update on the status of implementation of their previous recommendation, particularly those that are related to financial management and internal controls? Thank you very much, Chair. Most of my questions, honestly, I would not expect answers from the Auditor General. I am reserving them for by the time we meet with provincial departments of Gauteng. Thank you very much.
Honorable Majola.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Greetings to the members of the Finance Committee, and also greetings to the officials from the Auditor General's office. Madam Chair, joining the queue in terms of welcoming the report, which one can easily interpret it as a mirror. It tells us as to what the value of money we are appropriating to the provinces, what positive or negative outcomes are we receiving. Madam Chair, we note the report as a good report, as the presenter indicated, and also noting that the good of this report, Madam Chair, doesn't reflect the actual service delivery on the ground. It's the matter of the accountability and the proper reporting. Having said that, Madam Chair, noting again that Gauteng, it's one of our major economic hubs in this country. And yes, we applaud receiving a kind of report in terms of the audit outcomes. Madam Chair, I've noticed one element which requires our urgent attention in terms of completing the glossy nature of this report on page 5, Madam Chair. The slight improvement in terms of disclaimer to the adverse category increased by 1, contributed by the Gauteng Housing Fund. But Madam Chair, as it indicates a positive growth, but the category which that department or that fund or that entity improves, it's snail snail pace, Madam Chair. We don't want to see anything from those three categories, but I think I have to deposit that that entity requires our agent attention to make it sure that we complete the cycle of a good report. Again, Madam Chair, on the slide 8, I've also, in terms of performance planning and reporting, we don't see much of improvement there, Madam Chair, comparing the two financial year, the 2022 and 2023 and 23-24 financial year. It remains the same, Madam Chair. There is no changes, which it contributed by the two departments which are not able to link their KPIs and the actual service delivery on the ground. Noting also that it contributed by health, agriculture, human settlement. I'm mentioning the three, Madam Chair, amongst the rest, because those three departments are of a developmental nature. Therefore, Madam Chair, sitting on that category for the two financial year with no improvement, and then it tells you that it compromised the service delivery and the economic growth that we are desperate of. Moving on to slide 9, Madam Chair, with regards to, that's the concern, Madam Chair, if you look at the irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Comparing the two financial years, Madam Chair, you can see that we noticed the ascending pattern of that category. If you look at 2022, 2023, and the audit outcomes for 23-24, it moved from 5.7 billion to 7.9 billion. Yes, as the previous speaker indicated, that we might not receive the responses we want pertaining this report, but checking from the Auditor General, what measures that we need to put in place in terms of making sure that we flattened that graph, which one is noticing the growth on it. And further, what are the measures in place again, maybe from the Auditor Generals, in terms of recovering, in particular, the wasteful expenditure, because I think the principle of a responsible individual must apply. How do the Auditor General advised the Gauteng department to recover those funds from the responsible individuals? That's the same thing applies, Madam Chair, with the fruitless and wasteful. We noticed an increase from 11 million to 556 million. That also need an agent attention, Madam Chair, to compress that situation to normal. One has also noticed the contributors of this category, the fruitless expenditure. Madam Chair, we are noticing that in terms of this, human settlement is a common factor in terms of this. In terms of the irregular expenditure, they've contributed an alarming 3.9 billion compared to the last financial year, which was 382 that's an alarming increase in terms of irregular expenditure from human settlement. Again, it forms part of a wasteful expenditure. It's part of the big five that needs to be zoomed in, Madam Chair, to see as to what is the challenge that it's sitting at the Human Settlement Department regarding the wasteful and the fruitless expenditure. Going to slide 11, Madam Chair, regarding the unpaid claims. Again, we seems not, the Gauteng province seems not to get a remedy in terms of paying the service providers, if I get the presenter correctly when he was referring to the unpaid claims. And I've noted the contribution in terms of this, because it's got a very, very negative contribution in terms of individuals and emerging businesses. Last one, Madam Chair, which I hope the Office of the Auditor General will be able to respond to this. On slide 14, the repairs and maintenance. I see there there are the 2 hospitals and 11 schools as a sample, which might give us a different picture if you look at the department as a whole in terms of the repairs and maintenance, when we include roads and other key areas in terms of repairs and maintenance. Well, it indicated that the province of Gauteng did not allocate the sufficient budget for repairs and maintenance. As per the Auditor General, what is an acceptable norm or percentage in terms of setting aside the necessary amount of repairs and maintenance for the province? Because, or is there any regulation that the provinces need to adhere to when it comes to the budgeting and paying attention into maintenance and repairs? That is only what I've got, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ryder.
Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. Thank you very much for the presentation from the Auditor General. Always interesting to see, and we appreciate the work that you do. Honourable Soweso, I think the weather issues are not only where you are, we all feel. South Africa is cold today, but I want to pick up on what Honourable Soweso mentioned in her question session, and the fact is that yes, certainly I think we acknowledge the good work that's been done in Gauteng in terms of the compliance and the reporting standards that are improving and resulting in improved audit outcomes. So I think that acknowledgement must be there for the province. But as Honourable Soweso said, the fact that they are following processes and ensuring that their reporting is up to standard is possibly not filtering through in terms of actual service delivery and so on. And so slide 8 highlighted the fact that, and I'm reading from the slide, it says reporting on delivery not credible. Performance indicators or relevant indicators not being complete. Now, it's important for an audit process to ensure, in terms of the way that auditing is done on government entities in South Africa, to ensure that the money that's being spent is being spent effectively, cost effectively and efficiently, but also in alignment with the purpose and the mandate of a department. And where a department is not being measured correctly in terms of what they are supposed to be doing, then we fall short, because it's easy to spend money. Spending money on the right things and achieving the right outcomes is obviously the big thing that we need to keep monitoring. And I think that perhaps the Auditor General has highlighted the fact that and so the big five departments were mentioned, and I think a quick thumbs up is that those big five departments are responsible for more than 80% of the budget expenditure in the province. And yet all five of those provinces ended up in the unqualified section, but not clean audits, which means that there's probably an issue with them not meeting their targets. Now remember that those targets are set by the departments themselves. So they're set out for the year and tell us what they're going to achieve. And then at the end of the year, those targets are not met. And ultimately, that means that services have not been delivered. Now, one always sees that money is largely spent, but if it's not being spent to achieve the targets, that I believe is where we need to ask serious questions of oversight, and that is where we need to investigate. Now, I do think that it's important that we note as well that there has been money returned to Treasury because of an inability to spend. And that again is cause for concern. And perhaps the AG can give us some comments on those funds that have been returned to Treasury and the impact that has had on performance. But certainly where money is being spent and we're not achieving the outcomes, what is it being spent on? It's something that really needs a much deeper scratch. One of the big concerns that I flagged as well was on slide 9. That irregular expenditure, which had been on an improving trend from 2019 right up to 2023. So you know, there was a glitch in the 2020-2021 financial year, which seemed to be corrected, and then there was a marked improvement. But there's been a regression now in the 23-24 financial year, and we're sitting at 8 billion rand of irregular expenditure. Now that's an alarming number, and certainly I think that as we're processing the fiscal framework, we'll understand the impact of a number that size. 8 billion rand will go a long way towards meeting the shortfalls in the national fiscus. So yeah, the issue that I wanted to hammer on is that there was a comment on the later slide that 95% of this unauthorized and irregular expenditure has not been dealt with in the past, and this trend can't continue. It just points to a total lack of accountability and the implementation of consequences for people that are not following due process. So to be reporting, these improved audit outcomes, and yet to see unauthorized and irregular expenditure ballooning to this level is quite alarming. I noted as well that the Office of the Premier is one of the areas that was highlighted for digging into their reserves in the past year. And I had a look at the number there, and it ties in quite closely with the cost of paying 6,000 people that haven't been budgeted for in terms of plans. And the sustainability of those plans is therefore brought into account. So it really is something that I want to flag as a concern. The fact that we continue with these employment plans, but those employment plans are not funded and not sustainably funded going forward. The Next issue I want to ask about, and this is perhaps the biggest, most important one that I want to hear an answer to. There was a comment about infrastructure that has been completed but is not being utilized. So I think we've noted, we're aware that there are a number of projects that have stopped, that have been halted. There are a number of infrastructure projects that have had major delays, and I do know that the provincial delegation has spent quite a lot of time investigating that on the last provincial week and intend doing follow-ups at the week. But more alarming is the fact that we complete infrastructure, we spend the money, we do the work as government, but then that infrastructure is not being utilized. Perhaps the AG who made that comment can give us an indication of what some of those projects are. And certainly I think it's something that we need to investigate further, because there's nothing worse than building a clinic in a neighborhood and the community being hopeful that they're going to have much better facilities going forward, and yet that clinic remains locked and ends up becoming the target of vandalism, neglect, and ends up breaking down. We can't have such a situation, and I think that really needs to be seriously looked at. The impact of e-tolls was also mentioned in the presentation, and the fact that there is now such a big financial burden that's been shifted onto the province in order to meet the e-tolls commitments to National Treasury. Can you indicate to us, please, what the impact is of that is on the actual performance of the Roads and Transport Department? Because obviously they would have had to had a substantial lowering of their targets, along with the lowering of the budgets. Now, certainly I can see, I drove in the rain on Monday morning. I drove through the highways of Gauteng, the provincial roads, and the street markings just have not been done for too long. And the impact of the rain just meant no one could see what lanes they're supposed to be in. And it's becoming increasingly dangerous to drive either at night or in bad weather conditions in Gauteng. This is the real impact of having money shifted from paying for the maintenance to paying for the e-toll system, and the debt was incurred there. But certainly, AG, please, if you can give us some indication in terms of how that financial burden has shifted the focus of the department, and perhaps give us a little bit more insight into that. Maybe you can answer some of the underlying questions there too. My last question and input, Chairperson, relates to the other slide that spoke about the action steps, and I don't have the slide number in front of me. I can flip back onto it shortly, but certainly it spoke about the coordinated support to municipalities, and I believe that we've just had the audit outcomes of the various municipalities, and Gauteng did not perform well. We have an audit in Gauteng again, and there are some fairly alarming issues there. And again, agreeing with Honourable Soweso, we've got municipalities on the West Rand that are really struggling, and we've got Mfuleni, which is all but collapsed. And that coordinated support to municipalities doesn't seem to be evident in terms of the delivery of the municipalities. What kind of amounts? Now, I mean, you put it on the slide there, and I believe it's important for me to pick up and say, what kind of amounts do you see that as necessary to be expended in terms of providing that support? And certainly in your experience, I realize that you are responsible for the provincial audit, but in terms of the local government audit outcomes, what are the areas that need to be most focused on there, and solutions that we can draw on in terms of getting that coordinated support to the municipalities, particularly that is functional? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Honourable Brett.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I see there's a problem with the bandwidth, so maybe at one stage I must switch off my video. The Honourable Rider has touched on quite a number of the issues that I wanted to raise, but first of all, let me also thank the Attorney General and the staff for the presentation and the feedback to the committee. I'm referring to slide number 8, read with slide number 11, where these refer to the state of the health department in Gauteng. The report refers briefly to the Tembisa and the Charlotte Mazeke hospitals. What is required is an in-depth investigation into the irregularities ongoing in these institutions. Irregularities bleeds public funds. And what is more troublesome is the AG's finding that performance indicators were crafted in such a way that achievements are measured not on actual outcomes or impact. What is the reason for this creative crafting of performance indicators according to the AG? It appears as if actual outcomes are being masked, and we need to remove the mask to get to the real state of affairs behind it. The increase in the amount of civil claims for medical negligence in that province is indicative that all is really not healthy within the Department of Health in Gauteng. I've also referred to slides number 9 and 10. A major concern should be that 7.914 billion rand in irregular expenditure due to the non-compliance with the procurement and contract management prescripts. This is indicative, according to me, that indicative of the fact that irregularities within the procurement and contract management remains a major concern. This is a pandemic and systemic crisis, not only in Gauteng, but I think all across South Africa, that erodes public finances. And what is even more concerning and should capture the attention of this committee is the fact that the AG is reporting on slide number 10 that the Gauteng leadership has not dealt with 95% of irregular expenses. This further indicates either provincial leadership that either does not want to deal with dubious contractors, corrupt officials, or incompetent officials on one hand, or incapability to effectively deal with these. I find it rather regrettable that the Attorney General reports on these irregular expenses instead of reporting that some officials and politicians who are responsible for these were in fact prosecuted. But I'll leave it up there. But I think my question to the Attorney General in this instance is what should be done to improve the situation. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Honourable Nxumalo.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and my greetings to you and all the members present on the platform. Chairperson, allow me to talk while my video is not on, based on the issue of network where I am in Acacia. Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity and to interact with the AG. I want to applaud the report from the AG. What I want to say is that we now have a picture of what is happening in Gauteng in terms of the entities that we are having in Gauteng, the department and whatever. So we are having a view of what is happening in Gauteng. We can be able to interact with the provincial executive in terms of what AG has come up with. Chairperson, I wanted to get from the AG as to whether have they started themselves a target to assist on the issue of that have been raised, the issue of irregular expenditure, because it's topping up. If ever there's any way they can be able to assist or give human capacity deficit. They talk about litigation, which is also a major problem in Gauteng. And also the issue of to build a resilient system to avoid all this. Chairperson, I think also to get from the AGS to whether they get the necessary cooperation from the province to make sure that they deal with some of the issues together to make sure that they kept the issue that are happening in Gauteng. Another matter, Chairperson, which I want us to deal with the provincial executive, the issue of monitoring. They've highlighted the issue of monitoring, which is not up to standard. The issue of consequence management. It means when you can set a date for us to meet with the management or the executive to say that we have found out this. What are your plans to make sure that you deal with those matters moving forward? Because if we don't have that meeting, really it will be like work as usual. They must, but if ever they can be able to bind themselves to say, with this we are going to do these measures. With this one, we are going to come up with this one. I think that one will assist, because next time when we meet with them, we are having the checklist. This one you fail. This one you manage up until into that way. I think it will assist us. But all in all, Chairperson, I want to thank the Auditor General, because now we are having a picture of what is happening in Gauteng and its entities. Thank you very much, Chairperson, from my side. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Malo. Dr. Ramanzi, I think those are the honorable members' questions. I only have one question that I want to ask you. Is there a different format of auditing in terms of the provinces? Like when you audit in Limpopo, when you go to Gauteng, you do it differently. Or when you go to Western Cape, you audit differently. That is my question that I wanted to find out. Or is there a format of auditing? Because these are the province of South Africa. And then also including the municipalities. So I wanted also for you to assist us in that regard. So can I give you an opportunity to respond to honorable members? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. On the call, I'm joined by my colleagues. Melissa McCarthy is the Deputy Business Unit Leader for the Gauteng Province. She's going to assist me to address all the questions. I'm going to start and then ask her to come in. I'm also joined by Nicola Dicken, who has been with the Gauteng Province for some time. She was a manager, and then subsequently she joined my office as senior manager, so she has got an appreciation of the matters in the Gauteng Province. I'm also joined by Rushka, who's our stakeholder liaison manager. So the four of us will tackle all the questions to the best of our ability. I'll start with the one that you posed last, Chair, to say, is there consistency in how we audit provincial governments, and is there consistency how we audit local government? The answer is yes. The approach, the methodology is developed centrally, and then that's the only way we can develop the messages that we are able to report in the general report across provinces. You can imagine if we audit the provinces differently, we will not be able to draw parallels. We will not be able to indicate in our general report the messages countrywide. So that is a response to your question, Chairperson, that we harmonize our audit processes approach through what we call the multi-year audit plan that focus on different themes and government across as a single unit. One of our pillars of the multi-year audit plan, which we will share with you next time when we meet, is one of the 10 pillars of the multi-year audit plan is one auditor, one government. That further adds to the response to your question. Then, not in any order, I'll start with Honorable Sylvia. That's exactly the purpose of these engagements. If we can walk away here, Honorable Sylvia, whereby these conversations will lead to interventions in a collaborative manner to say what support can we get from the Select Committee on Finance. And we will make ourselves available. If you want to engage the provincial leadership to advance your own mandate, that's exactly what we wanted to hear. And then if that contributes to further improvement in the environment, we will really jointly celebrate with yourself, because the reality is no one can do it alone. We have realized this is going to require all hands on deck. And this comment I'm making also addresses Honorable Brett's question that says, what must be done to improve the situation? It's going to require all of us understanding our mandates, committing to performance, doing the right things in the first place. It serves no one to be dedicating time, resources in material irregularities, filling in forms. That time dedicated to material irregularities should be spent in doing for what everyone is paid for, rewarded, and in that way, it will propel doing good in a sustainable way and prevention of regressions. I did indicate, and I want to stress, without clarity of roles and responsibilities, without standard operating procedures, without commitment to ethical governance, any gains is going to be susceptible to regression. The tools and processes must be there that must anchor the institutions. Otherwise, it will be premature to celebrate any gains. Leadership. I want to address those two because they're quite fundamental. Those points. Then, let me see. Let me park that for now. And then Honorable Ryder reporting, there was a comment. Let me do this way. Melissa, are you happy to deal with others whilst I'm getting my bearings here on my notes? Are you able to address some in the meantime? I look at the list here.
Thank you, HOP, and good afternoon, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. As introduced by our Head of Portfolio, my name is Melissa McCarthy, a Deputy Business Unit Leader located in the Gauteng office. TJ, I will continue, thank you, while you prepare responses for the others. With regards to, I think a few members raised concerns with regards to the irregular expenditure and the driver being human settlements and health being the biggest contributors. And it is a concern for the Auditor General too. And I think, as indicated by our Head of Portfolio, but also to respond to what Treasury can do to assist to bring it down. I think also, just to add on, there definitely is a need for more stringent compliance monitoring, particularly in the supply chain management space. Sometimes it's not necessarily always that they're not knowledgeable about what the legislation requires, but sometimes it is intended to not comply, to obviously move forward at a speedier pace for particular procurement projects. But ultimately, in the end, it does result in irregular expenditure. And similarly for health, it also requires better procurement planning from the beginning. And more importantly, I think in terms of monitoring and tracking, the action plans that departments usually develop once an audit is completed, what happens within the province is that on a quarterly basis through the audit committees that is governed or administered by the Treasury Office, there is responsibility within the internal audit office for them to follow up on these action plans But similarly for audit committee, they then do also get an update. And I think that's also, as an oversight committee, it is recommended that the committee then follows up on those action plans that they've put in place to address some of these compliance findings that would have resulted in the irregular expenditure and what's being done about it. But more importantly, what preventative measures have they put in place? And that's the recommendation we would make as the AG. There was a question around the Gauteng project not being completed. And the question was, is it completed now? We can agree that it was an incomplete project. It's one of our material irregularities that we've also issued in the past, in the recent past, between 2023 and 2024. And it's obviously with the material irregularity, there's certain actions that the accounting officer then commits to implement within a certain timeline. And for us to comfortably resolve the material irregularity as the AG, we need to ensure that the accounting officer is indeed implementing these actions. And based on the current or most recent update is, as we continue to track these projects almost on a quarterly basis, and the material irregularities, is that we can confirm that they did appoint a contractor to complete the project through DID, which is infrastructure development, and then also the construction work is in progress. And we'll continue to track that as the AG's office, but we can confirm that construction has continued on that project. With regards to the project related to Mirafong, we'll then also wait for confirmation of the name of the clinic member, but it's interactions like these that are quite important for us to also get information for something we can follow up on once the name is confirmed. Because ultimately we do want to see all projects being completed to ensure service delivery is achieved. There was also a question around the K54 Provincial Road not being complete within the Department of Roads and Transport. So on the K54, it is a project, one of our key projects that we've paid attention to in the past. And I can confirm also with regards to that one, there definitely was a delay. The contractor abandoned the project. Based on our knowledge, there was illegal encroachment by Tshwane residents, and that's what resulted in the abandonment of the project. But it's a project we're currently doing a follow-up on to see how they progressed with regards to this. And the most recent update from management, which is still something we need to corroborate, is that a new contractor was appointed between April and May for the project to continue. But it is something we still need to corroborate with management in terms of receiving the necessary documents. Also with regards to transport, the one area or the one road that we did issue a material irregularity for the project being delayed is the K31 in prior years, and we've also seen progress being made on that particular project where a contractor was then appointed for that project to progress. The sinkholes in Mirafong is indeed a key concern for us, honourable members, and particularly in Gauteng and the sinkholes identified there and the harm obviously that it causes for the residents within that area. We as an office through our enforcement pillar, we've issued a material irregularity with regards to that, and the current status on that in terms of how our most recent tracking of that is that a contractor was appointed and they're currently in phase 1 of the project. But I think the area as a whole, and something we always encourage management to do, is not only attend to the one area, but obviously duplicate or replicate the practices they put in one project to other projects to attend to it. But it is indeed a concern. I'll continue with Member Ligwasi with regards to the collaboration with the Public Protector and the Walks. Just to confirm that we do indeed collaborate with those organizations. We do have a MOU with those organizations, and where there are instances of matters that require not only interrogation from an audit point of view, but more deeper point of view that requires, for example, a forensic investigation, we do refer matters to them if the need arises, and it currently is being done. With regards to the, do we provide guidance to audit committees and internal auditors to be more effective? Yes, indeed. As part of the accountability ecosystem, but also the combined assurance, we continuously do work with governance structures, including the oversight structures within the province. And we do this by obviously making available information to audit committees and internal auditors that would assist them in implementing their function as governance structures. We also provide workshops when it is requested, just for better understanding on matters. There's also training provided to oversight structures as part of our capacitation plan too. So those are some of the things we do for them to continuously be effective. Within the Gauteng province, and audit committees, we have observed that they are focusing on the right things and they're asking the right questions when engaging with officials of the departments and entities. Internal audit, similarly, I think a bigger concern for internal audit is what we find is they would do their audits and give recommendations, especially for the concerning departments, but you find that, or their complaint usually is that management doesn't necessarily implement the recommendations given. And that is something we've also brought to Treasury's attention to, for them to focus on that. With regards to us providing a status of recommendations on internal controls and financial management, the recommendations we've made in the past, we'll record that as an action item for us to share with the committee, but we do take note of the request. And then I'm just looking at other questions. I want to respond to the repairs and maintenance. So let me firstly, there was a comment made with regards to unpaid claims and it having a negative impact. And I think indeed it does have a negative impact, because what it requires is, we find that it's obviously not budgeted for as part of the budget plan for the year, but in the end, they need to pay some of these claims that materialize, and it then affects other areas of service delivery that they would have budgeted for, but now have to reallocate those funds. So it is indeed a concern, but we're also finding that it is something they slowly attending to, perhaps not with the intended sense of urgency, but it is something they've acknowledged that they need to pay attention to. The question on repairs and maintenance, there was just a question on what's the ideal, and the ideal we work with for both the MFMA and PFMA is 8% of your budget is an ideal percentage to spend on repairs and maintenance. And for some of the key service deliveries, particularly education and health, we're finding that it obviously is below that, and they're quite aware of that. They have their own limitations as they explain, but I think it just goes back to the initial planning of budgeting and service delivery, to make it a commitment to allocate 8% of budgets to repairs and maintenance to avoid additional costs in the end. And then with regards to recovering wasteful expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, there was a question from member Majola. So you will see, as was presented, that in terms of the closing balance for fruitless and wasteful expenditure compared to irregular expenditure, the balance is much smaller than irregular expenditure. So we do find that they progress faster with investigations relating to fruitless and wasteful expenditure. But it is an area that we continuously still elevate in terms of completing it within a year, at least, I think is the ideal once it's identified or reported, within a year of it being reported. But also, we also find that because it was really about holding individuals accountable, it's not necessarily always the case where individuals are held accountable or where they identify individuals that need to be held accountable. However, in instances where we have identified them identifying individuals, we found that certain individuals would have gone through disciplinary processes, but also with investigations taking some time, you also find that once they identify individuals that should be held accountable, those individuals have left the department. And that's why we always encourage faster processes for investigations to be completed so that disciplinary processes can take place rather than the fruitless and wasteful expenditure going through a write-off or condemnation process without anyone being held accountable. And then with regards to Member Ryder's question, where department's performance planning is not in line with the mandate, and could they achieve the risk is that they could not achieve the outcome. So one of the initiatives we have in place is the proactive review of audit performance or annual performance plans rather, and where we do find that some KPIs are not aligned to perhaps the national sector or the MTSF. It's something we do raise, and in some instances it is amended, but we do agree that where it is not aligned to the mandate, it definitely will affect the achievement of intended outcome for what that department has been mandated for. The Big Five is in the yellow. It's really a mix, not the Big Five. There's 4 of the Big Five that's in the yellow area. Education is in the green area. But of those that sit in the yellow area, it's really a big mixed bag of non-compliance matters and performance reporting matters. Some of them, not all of them, have performance reporting matters. In some cases, or at least predominantly for the Departments of Health and Human Settlements, we did raise as concerns, we did raise a significant amount of targets not achieved, as was planned for both. From a different aspect, we've raised for human settlements, we've raised as material irregularity targets not achieved, and that's where we really saw them work on the overall annual performance plans and also the targets that they set, but also working harder in terms of putting in processes to achieve targets. And in the year that we issued it, in the prior year, the year following that, we did see an improvement in achievement of targets. But what's important there is that they sustain it. With health, we moved, or what we raised with health is where they can't adequately support the performance, what's reported in the performance report. So the evidence that's provided is not adequate to support what's there. So based on what's published in the end is not always a reliable view of what the Department of Health has actually achieved. To an extent where they can't even adjust the performance report because they are given an opportunity, because the evidence that they have and the processes they went through to put that evidence together is just not ideal. So we've also raised a material irregularity in that space. We are seeing slow improvements with regards to, because they have a records management problem. We've seen small improvements with regards to records management, but it is still a big concern because the records are kept at the different hospitals and clinics and not centralized at the department itself. But it is also a material irregularity that we continue to track. There was a question on underspending and the impact on targets achieved. So in the prior year, I can confirm that as a province, they did underspend in terms of the budget or funds that was allocated to them. The main contributors were the Department of Health and the Social Development Department, with health approximating probably rounded off 1.2, I would say 1.1 billion, and then social 500 million underspending from the budget that was allocated. And we can confirm that that definitely did affect targets achieved. There are various reasons why they wouldn't have achieved those targets based on what they disclosed. But just to confirm that it does affect your targets that you planned, the achievement of those, and obviously then affects service delivery. I also want to cover with regards to projects incomplete, delayed projects, projects completed but not used. It definitely is a concern. It's something we really focus on from an infrastructure point of view. Using our enforcement pillar, we have issued various material irregularities and have seen, for the projects that we identified, we have seen them attending to those. In some instances, we've also seen them go beyond and what we've identified and address some of the other projects that are delayed. As part of the Premier's priorities, delayed projects is one of those priorities that was previously included before the 13 problems came about. And in those infrastructure projects that were delayed, they were focusing and attending to specific ones. And we continuously focus on this area to either see that they've progressed with those, or we then follow our enforcement pillar to ensure that they are attending to those and that projects are being completed or it's being used by members of the community where projects are completed but not used. We also then compel them to open up those projects. Then the impact of e-tolls. There was a question with regards to what's the impact of this on transport. So the e-tolls really affected SANRAL and not necessarily the Gauteng Department of Transport. And obviously, I do agree that it means SANRAL would be, they would be losing out on a significant amount of revenue. It's not something I can confirm in terms of what we've observed because it's not an audit we look at in Gauteng. But we obviously are aware that the Provincial Treasury, together with National Treasury, has taken on that debt to pay SANRAL to do away with the e-tolls. And the province continues to do that in terms of the 21.8 billion debt that they've committed to, which is 30% of the liability. I just want to see if there's anything else I need to cover. I can confirm that we do get cooperation from auditees within the Gauteng province with regards to audit processes. We don't have any concerns or significant concerns. I think from a process point of view, it's not a perfect environment. So we do find that information sometimes is submitted late once requested. So it's just audit process challenges, I would say, from the auditee side, inefficiencies that we do still experience, but there isn't a lack of cooperation. There is a sense of wanting to do better, but just they need to do it with a sense of urgency. Teja, I think that's about it from my side in terms of what I've... Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Chairperson, I wanted to, with your permission, there's some residual matters that I think we need to tighten a bit. Melissa, on the question of the e-toll, the question was, is the commitment of the provincial treasury, the 30%, not causing diversion of much needed road? For example, the Honorable Chairperson said there's street marking, which seems to be not being attended to. Is there a correlation between diverting funds into the e-toll commitment by provincial treasury and lack of attention to roads and roads and transport? And would that are we able to say that, or we can defer that for next time?
So the part I can confirm based on our knowledge and our discussions with the Treasury Department is these funds are coming out of the Treasury's reserves. And we can also confirm in terms of the allocation to transport, the allocation to transport hasn't decreased. So it doesn't affect the allocation that transport has received. I think what we can come back to the committee on is there any effect on the state of roads, but with no reallocation or reduction in the budget to the Department of Transport, there shouldn't be a direct impact from the e-toll debt. But they obviously, from a service delivery point at the Department of Transport itself, we can come back to that in terms of the quality of roads itself. We are aware that they are attending to certain projects, but not necessarily all projects that needs attention.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
HOP.
then Melissa, there was a question that we didn't respond to that says, why do we continue to see indicators that are reports, generating reports, and not dealing with the substantive issues that are contained in the report? We didn't answer that. Why is there no movement in that, our assessment? It's a work in progress. It continues to influence the environment to move away from the inputs. Your reflection on that, please.
Thank you, HOP. So from what we observed is that ultimately it is to, I suppose from an achievement point of view, it makes it easier to achieve the number of reports rather than the actual crux of what you really need to achieve. And that is why, as indicated earlier by our HOP, we are advocating and recommending and encouraging them to focus more on impactful outcomes, impactful KPIs, where we've seen a move in the Premier's office on that. We also find that they do move certain indicators to operational plans. It then makes it, from our observation, it means they would then track it from an operational point of view, but it doesn't become published information for other users of the performance reports to track their progress, especially where they are struggling to achieve certain targets. So that's why you'll find that they might be tracking easier KPIs and setting easier targets and rather managing the others through operational plans. But it's something also we continue to raise with them and ensure that there is alignment to the national sector and the MTSF in terms of what they should be reporting on from a completeness point of view. Thank you.
Okay. Then there's another question that we didn't respond to. Earlier, the comment was saying, we can't say there's no unauthorized expenditure, but there's excessive pricing. And then there was an ask to say, these excessive prices by those who incurred them, when did this happen? Because the member was saying, we shouldn't be incurring excessive pricing and only try to recover them afterwards. What is it that can be done to address this issue here? Melissa?
Thank you, HOP. I think let me first take an opportunity to really explain what the unauthorized expenditure means in terms of the modified cash standards, and it really is where a department has not overspent on its total allocated budget. And ultimately that's how you find that they don't have unauthorized expenditure, is because they haven't overspent on their budget. But there could be deficiencies within their spending, we do agree. Over the 5 years of administration, the main area where we did identify overpricing is indeed during the COVID period. And that's really where we identified our findings around income overpricing and then also material irregularities issued for those, particularly in the Department of Health and Department of Education. But we also did find that controls were not as tight as they should have been. Be it compliance monitoring controls, approval controls with regards to payments, and even segregation of duties at the point in time. And that's some of the recommendations we made then, but it really was during a particular point in time. the overpricing would obviously happen with regards to certain transactions and processes. And I agree, if you're paying excessive prices for something, it definitely does sacrifice something else in terms of what you planned for and budgeted for. But in the end, based on the overall budget that's been allocated, it didn't affect the overall budget. You do also find, I must just also state that you do find that once a department closes off a year, there are what you call accruals or payables not paid, and that's because they haven't yet paid cash for those, and they do operate on a cash basis. And therefore, the financial statements are prepared on a cash basis. But if you had to apply an accrual basis of accounting, it means you would have to recognize those invoices that are not paid, which could possibly result in an overspending of a budget if they did apply the accrual basis of accounting. And where we noted that predominantly was the Department of Health and Social Development, where they had a higher level of accruals and unpaid, or higher level of accruals and payables compared to other departments. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Chairperson, there was another question that requested our response on how much support is being provided to local government, and what does local government need for provincial intervention, because we all know the challenges faced in local government. From our side as the audit office, we work closely with the Provincial Intergovernmental Relations Initiative. That's where we provide support in those engagements where the Premier interface with the mayors. And then secondly, we work very closely with the MEC COPTA now. Some of you may be aware that last year there was this local government turnaround summit that was held. And then what came out of that summit was different work streams that are targeted in enhancing oversight and providing management support to local government through the MEC COPTA. That's an area that we very, very, very closely, because we believe that it can go some way in assisting, enhancing integration between provincial and local government as a whole, with the MEC COPTA being a conduit. And then there's other intergovernmental relations initiatives that are not only provincial based, but they're managed through the Office of the AG holistically in partnership with the Minister of COPTA to elevate matters of local government. And I'm sure you are all aware that there's also the white paper that is currently there's inputs and suggestions that are being solicited from various platforms. The Office of the Auditor General is playing an integral part in the revitalization of local government through that white paper. It's a big reform initiative where we all sharing lessons on how to assist local government to do what is expected of it. We also support local government through what we call audit readiness initiatives, so that things don't fall between the cracks, and then we continue assisting the administration. I'm talking local government now, in improving the disciplines around reporting, timely reporting, and related. Then there was a question that was asked to say, how is provincial treasury and national treasury going to get, specifically Merafo, but if I had the member there, she was saying across the board, to get projects to be built overprice free, irregular fruitless expenditure free, and avoid abandonment. You would have heard earlier the emphasis on probity. Leadership, we have a municipality, and we said this thing publicly. City of Ekurhuleni have proactively, if City of Ekurhuleni can do it, so is everyone. They said, we have realized that in our environment, we've got challenges with compliance. What the leadership did in equity lending, they're proactive, even if it's not required by law. They have embraced and implemented probity audits. The internal audit is leading from the front to say we can't do the same things and expect different results. Probity will go a long way. The honorable member, where you raised these issues of overpricing, etc., etc. It might not necessarily eliminate everything, but it is a step in the right direction towards arresting matters of compliance. In your initiatives, engagements, I'm going to encourage the committee to really thoroughly think about this aspect of probity in enhancing oversight and getting things done the correct way the first time. I think, and then there was a comment made by, I think, Honorable Zwangini Seni, where you said the housing fund snail's pace and needs committee support. We welcome that. Anything that you can do from your side, on top of what we are seized with administration, will be supported. You said the same, more or less the same thing on the auditor performance information on the slide 8. I'm glad that you spotted that you see that there's no improvement, but your input will be very much welcome there. Chairperson, I'm about to hand over to you. The one that I wanted to respond to, what I was saying, also said, how did AG advise the department how can the AG advise the departments to recover the irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure? That is the purview of the provincial treasury. There are guidelines clearly stipulated. After incurral of these expenditures, our duty is to report, and then the administration together with treasury have got a well-entrenched process on how they need to be addressed and recovered. Our job, we assist with strengthening the environments to prevent this from happening in the first place. However, once they've materialized, our role is limited as the AG's office beyond reporting. Chairperson, I'm now handing over to you to see if there can be further deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. I see Honorable Sumisa's hand is up. I'm not sure it's a legacy hand.
Yes, no, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair. I've got only one question, Chair. I saw we've got a audit report on maintenance, incomplete projects, and all of those things. I just want to check: is there possibly an audit report on how many hijacked buildings have been reclaimed by the government of Gauteng? I'm not sure how to put it, but I've got an interest in that issue of hijacked buildings and how many of those were successfully reclaimed by either one of the local governments or the provincial government. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Sibisa?
I'm done, Chair.
You were muted. I'm not sure it was only myself.
No. I said I want to check if there is an audit report on hijacked buildings. How many were successfully retrieved by the government, provincial government, or the local government? I don't know how to put the question, but I'm interested in the issue of reclaiming hijacked buildings. Is there such a report? If not, I'm good, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Ramanzi? Before that, can I check if there's honorable members who also wanted to ask questions? I think that will be the last from honorable members. I don't see anyone. I think that's it, Honorable Ramanzi.
Thanks very much, Chair. Melissa, can you please help with this one here? This hijack buildings.
Thank you, HOP. Honorable Member, it's something we can look into. So we are aware that there are hijacked buildings. Predominantly, it would be on the local government space where they focus on hijacked buildings, but we don't have such a report in our possession. I think the best we can do is to see if there is such a report, but then also to advise the committee further in terms of requesting such a report, or for us also just to confirm how we go about sharing such a report, because it would be a report that comes directly from an auditee, which is either, I know the City of Johannesburg focuses a lot on hijacked buildings, and they usually have initiatives in that regard. So it's something we'll follow up and advise further on. Thank you.
Mr. Ramanzi.
Yes. That's it from our side, Chairperson. We can hand over to you now. Chairperson?
Somebody's meeting us. Who's that? It's taking care of the system. Thanks very much, honorable members. I think that's it from our side with the Auditor General. Thanks very much, and the Auditor General, for your valuable contribution today and your team. This briefing has provided us with a clear understanding of the performance of the Gauteng Provincial Treasury in particular, as is the province that we are focusing on today. I think you earlier indicated that you were responsible for 3, but today the focus was on Gauteng and its entities, as well as areas requiring an attention. The committee will reflect on the insight shared and consider any necessary follow-up questions, actions to ensure accountability and enhance service delivery. I appreciate the constructive engagement and the spirit of collaboration demonstrated throughout the meeting. But I also want to indicate that as part of my question earlier to yourself, I know, honorable members, we are representing the province and at some instance our political parties. But what is critical that Mr. Ramanzi have responded to is that the auditing is consistent. So we should not be, when we go to the province A, then we ask these questions as if things were not done in a way that we want it to be done. But when we go to the province B, because it's the province that is under our leadership, then we become smarter on the issue of questions. As long as it has been addressed that the consistency part of auditing is across the provinces. So I think that is area that we wanted to highlight, because if we don't address that, we will going to have a problem in terms of what is it that we want to achieve on the outcome of the audit. So it's something that that we have indicated. So before we adjourn, oral members, I think it's let us briefly consider the adoption of the minutes. I will now thank the Auditor General, and we can excuse us as we are now continuing with the programs of our for today's meeting, because now we are going to focus on the minutes. So thanks very much, Mr. Ramanzi and your team, and we hope that as you promised us that in the next meeting you are going to now give us the comparison that we have requested, and also everything, so that we can have an understanding of exactly what are the issues in the provinces. When we are saying this is apple and this is apple on A and B, then how do we make sure that the auditing part is not inconsistent? So we want the consistency part of auditing, because now we don't want the politicking, we want the consistency in terms of audit. Thanks very much. Mr. Ramanzi and the team, can you leave us?
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you very much. See you.
Honourable members, I've got the 3 minutes, the 5 minutes that have been sent to you by the Secretariat on Thursday. Can we now go straight to them? There is a minute of the 14th May 2025, which was the adoption of the committee strategic planning. Can I get the questions for clarity? And if not, can we get a move and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes? The 14th of May.
Thank you very much,
Honourable
Chairperson. I move for the adoption of the minutes for the meeting that was held in M46 on the 14th of May 2025. Thank you.
Okay. Honourable Nxumalo.
Thank you very much, Chair. I second move. Thank you.
Thank you. 23 May, briefing by the Minister of Finance on the budget. Any questions for clarity? There's none. Can we get a move and a second for the adoption of the minutes? Hello, Didiman. Let me check who was present.
Lekwaste moves for the adoption, Chair. We were just
Honourable Lekwaste move. Honourable Lekwaste Majola, second.
I second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. On the 27th of May 2025, briefing by PBO and FFC. Any questions for clarity or corrections? Honourable Sibisa move.
I move.
And Honourable Sibisa move. Any seconder? Honourable Majola second.
I seconded, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is it Honourable Majola? Thank you.
Yes, Chair.
Sorry? Yes.
Are you seconding?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Seconding.
On the 28th May, public hearing on the fiscal framework, corrections. Honourable Brett.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I move that we adopt the minutes as a true reflection. Thank you.
I second, Madam Chair.
Honourable Brett second. Thanks very much. On the 30th of May, responses from the National Treasury and the SARS on submissions. Can any questions for clarity? Then, if there is none, then we can move and second. We can move for adoption. Honourable Brett, move.
I move.
Then Sibisa, Honourable Sibisa.
Second.
Honourable Sibisa second. Thanks very much, honourable members. I think it has come to the end of our meeting. Then I declare the meeting officially closed. And thank you all for your participation. And the team, big team led by Ndate Mangweni, we are saying big up for making sure that we are getting the response, the minutes, and the preparation by the Auditor General. And thanks very much, Honourable Mangweni and your team. The meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.